The series begins by introducing a beautiful house where Aurora resides. One morning, Aurora wakes up from her sleep as her maid, Bernard, calls her to confirm her plans to return to campus that day. Then, she calmly informs him that she has made the decision to go back to campus and instructs him to arrange for someone to pick her up. At the same time, we see a young man named Hawk, who has recently passed his pilot exam with satisfactory grades, chatting with the owner of the aviation institution company, Aaron Palmer. At that time, Aaron expresses his pride in Hawk's qualifications and asks him to be a friend to someone before joining his company. Hawk appears puzzled by Aaron's request, and after saying goodbye, he heads towards his car. However, just as Hawk is about to get into his car, Bernard calls him, assuming that Aaron has asked him to look after Aurora. This confuses Hawk because Aaron had only requested that he look after someone without specifying a name. There, Bernard promises to explain everything in detail once Hawk arrives at Aurora's house to pick her up for her first day of college. When Hawk arrived at Aurora's house, he was greeted by Bernard, who apologized for calling him suddenly. Bernard explained that it was Aurora's first day back at college, and he wanted Hawk to take her there so that she wouldn't be late. Bernard then invited Hawk inside to meet Aurora. At that time, Hawk felt irritated by Aurora's welcoming smile and refused her offer to sit down, causing her to feel annoyed despite her efforts to be friendly. Aurora then stood up, grabbed her bag from Bernard, and handed it to Hawk, telling him that he would have to take her to college every morning. There, he felt frustrated by her demand but still followed her orders. Upon arriving at the campus, Aurora requested that Hawk open the car door for her. Although he was still annoyed with her, he complied with her request. As Aurora stepped out of the car, a group of female students walked by and she attempted to smile at them. This confused Hawk, who asked if she knew the girls. Then, Aurora replied that she did not know them but tried to be friendly as an artist by smiling at them. Soon after, Aurora left Hawk. But, unfortunately, she accidentally stepped on a small hole in the ground that covered a sewer, causing all the students around to start whispering. Hawk, who was inside his car, knew about what had happened but chose to ignore it and started the engine. However, he had a change of heart and decided to help Aurora by taking off her shoes and carrying her. There, she was surprised by his kind gesture, so she remained silent and just looked at him. When they arrived at class, Hawk finally put Aurora down, and everyone in the room began to gossip about the two of them. Shortly after, two female students came into the classroom and greeted Hawk. One of the girls asked him what he was doing on campus and mentioned that they had met at a nightclub the previous night. However, he could not remember meeting them, which disappointed the girl. She then glanced sarcastically at Aurora, who was standing next to him, and made a comment about Aurora not wearing shoes. Then, Hawk simply told the girls that he was just giving Aurora a ride, which made the two female students jealous, so they eventually left. Meanwhile, Aurora tried to hide her feelings of disappointment towards the girls because they had mistreated her before. She then mentioned that she did not know that Hawk was a famous man, but he replied that he did not know the girls and walked away. As he walked to his car, he noticed that Aurora's shoes were stuck, so he picked them up for her. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Francois was busy with the photo shoot when his manager interrupted him during a break with news that he needed to return to Thailand as soon as possible. He was thrilled at the prospect of returning to Thailand and reuniting with Aurora, whom he had feelings for. His manager then told him that there was gossip going around that she had returned to college. He was even more excited upon hearing this news, as he now had the idea to pick Aurora up every day or sit beside her in class. However, the manager was only concerned with making sure Francois maintained his popularity so that he could continue to get job offers. Then, he assured his manager that by sticking close to Aurora, who was the #1 actress in Thailand, he would be guaranteed lots of work. After class, Aurora was still waiting for Hawk, who hadn't shown up to pick her up. Suddenly, a man sitting beside her noticed and asked why she hadn't left yet, offering her a ride home. Then, Aurora politely declined, saying she was waiting for someone. Afterward, the man bid her farewell and left. As Aurora was about to call Hawk on her phone, he suddenly appeared with new shoes for her. She was surprised and wondered how Hawk knew her shoe size. But Hawk brushed it off, saying it wasn't important, and quickly helped Aurora put on the shoes when he saw she was having difficulty. She was fascinated by his kindness and looked at him admiringly as he helped her. After their outing, Aurora instructed Bernard to prepare tea for Hawk while she went to her room to talk to him about something important. While she was away, Bernard asked Hawk about Aurora's behavior and begged him not to dislike her because although she could be bothersome, she carried many burdens on her shoulders and had a good heart. There, Hawk understood and chose to wait for her in the front yard. Soon enough, Aurora came and handed Hawk the shoes he had given her as a gift. However, he refused to accept them, reasoning that he couldn't wear them. Then, Aurora explained that she wouldn't wear them again, so Hawk suggested that she wear them next time. Besides that, she asked him to listen to all her commands, starting with picking her up and accompanying her every day and even attending classes with her on campus. Shortly after, Hawk approached Aurora and told her that he understood she was lonely, but Aurora denied it, laughing it off. Eventually, he agreed to her requests and then said goodbye to go home. As Hawk was about to leave, Aurora suddenly stopped him and requested that he give her a farewell kiss every day. Initially taken aback, he eventually agreed, and just before he was about to kiss her on the lips, Aurora closed her eyes and he planted a kiss on her forehead, leaving her feeling elated. Later on, as Aurora took the shoes Hawk had given her to her room, she couldn't help but reminisce about when she had put them on and when he had kissed her forehead. The next day, Hawk accompanied Aurora to campus, but was surprised to see her wearing heels again, which she proudly showed off as her newest shoes. Upon arriving, she urged him to enter the class with her. Meanwhile, Aaron was busy on his tab when Bernard arrived with a cup of coffee. Then, he inquired about Hawk, and Bernard explained how well he seemed to be handling Aurora. There, Aaron began to praise Hawk, noting his similarities to Philip, although he was still worried that without Philip around, Aurora might struggle to make important decisions. Bernard offered to watch over Aurora and Hawk in the meantime. During class, Hawk became bored and started playing with Aurora's phone, prompting her to take it back and ask him to write to her instead. In an effort to lift his spirits, she offered him some chocolate, but this only caused more gossip among the female students, who had already been talking about the two of them. Hearing the students also speaking negatively about Aurora, he could tell that she was upset but trying to remain composed. He eventually convinced her to leave the class with him, promising to take her somewhere less boring. After leaving campus, Hawk took Aurora to a beautiful meadow surrounded by reeds, a place where he often goes to find peace and watch planes take off and land. At that time, she was surprised to learn that this place was actually Palmer Airlines Flight Center, owned by her father, Aaron. Then, Hawk explained that his father had taken him there several times when he was little, and he thought Aurora would enjoy the same sense of peace there. While they were there, Hawk asked Aurora why she always smiled, to which she replied that she was happy. She also reassured him that she was used to the gossip surrounding her and that she appreciated the anti-fans who helped her get more job offers and attention, although she wished to become famous for her acting skills rather than her scandals. She then asked Hawk if she really deserved to be hated, and he jokingly replied that she was just boring, which made her laugh. Soon after, Hawk reminded Aurora to appreciate the people who truly loved her, and she thanked him for making her feel better. Then, she mentioned that she was planning to go shopping the next day since she didn't have any classes scheduled on campus, but Hawk didn't respond to that and asked her to go home. Once she arrived home, Aurora entered her room with a happy smile on her face, especially when she saw the shoes that Hawk had given her, which she placed on her bedside table. The next day, Aurora asked Hawk to come shopping with her at a lingerie store. When they arrived, the store clerk was surprised to see Hawk with her. Then, she quickly explained that Hawk was just her friend. Suddenly, the clerk complimented Hawk's looks and joked that Aurora's boyfriend would be jealous if he saw her with another guy. After the brief conversation, the clerk left Aurora to shop. When Hawk was about to leave and wait outside the store, she called him back to help her choose a bra. Then, he picked out one and Aurora tried it on, telling him the size, which made her feel embarrassed. After they finished shopping, Aurora playfully accused Hawk of being a pervert for checking her bra size, but he tried to explain that he was just helping. Then, she asked if Hawk had a girlfriend, but he said no. She found it hard to believe because he was so popular with the girls. When he asked about her boyfriend, Aurora hesitated to answer and quickly asked him to take her home. Unbeknownst to them, a man had been following them and filming them together. While taking a break, Aurora advised Hawk to smile more, but he remained silent. Suddenly, she received a call from her agency. Ingrid told her to come to the office immediately because a video of her shopping with Hawk had been leaked. At the agency office, Aurora, Hawk, and her manager M met with Ingrid. There, Ingrid scolded Aurora for the video. But then, M tried to calm him down, but it only made him angrier. Ingrid asked Aurora for an explanation. Aurora explained that Hawk was just her friend and there was nothing going on between them. But Ingrid didn't believe her. He said that a male friend going to a lingerie store with a female friend was suspicious, especially when the man was as handsome as Hawk. He also reminded her that she was already dating Francois. Aurora felt uncomfortable because Hawk was involved in the matter. Ingrid then reminded her that Francois would be returning soon and they would hold a press conference for their new film, so she shouldn't cause any scandals. Soon after, M revealed that the rumors of Aurora dating had caused her to have many anti-fans. Ingrid thought it was a good thing because anti-fans made her famous. Then, M asked Ingrid to clarify the rumors, but Aurora calmed her manager down and said she didn't mind the rumors. There, Hawk felt sorry for her. The next day, Francois returned to Thailand and was asked by his manager to attend an event the day after because they would receive a high fee. However, Francois declined the invitation as he wanted to rest. He also asked his manager to keep his return to Thailand a secret from the media because he wanted to surprise Aurora on campus, hoping to impress her even more. Later, he became angry when his manager informed him about a photo circulating of Aurora shopping with a man. He demanded that his manager find out who the man was. The scene then shifted to Hawk, who was hanging out with his friends Kiryu and Hippie at a bar. At that time, he seemed to be lost in thought, possibly thinking about when Aurora had been scolded by Ingrid earlier. Kiryu and Hippie noticed that Hawk was not himself and urged him to share his problems. However, he refused and claimed that he was just tired. Suddenly, Kiryu asked Hawk if he was in love with Aurora, but he didn't answer the question and chose to leave. As he was leaving, he accidentally collided with a woman named Sylvia, who was impressed by him. Soon after, while Hawk was lost in thought, Francois, who was wearing glasses, grabbed his drinking glass and broke it to get the attention of the bar patrons. Without hesitation, Francois attacked him while others watched, and some even recorded the incident. There, Kiryu and Hippie tried to help Hawk while questioning Francois' identity. Francois then took off his glasses, revealing himself to be the man dating Aurora. Hawk asked why Francois attacked him, and Francois explained that he believed Hawk had stolen Aurora from him. This led to him attacking Francois in return. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Sylvia was cleaning her makeup when she called Philip and urged him to return to Thailand immediately. She told him about the fight between Francois at the bar, which made him suspicious that it might be related to Aurora. The next day, while at the salon, Aurora noticed Hawk's injured face and asked him what happened. However, he lied and said that he fell down the stairs. At that time, Aurora saw that his hand was also injured, making her suspicious of his story. Then, she got closer to examine his face, which made Hawk feel embarrassed and averted his eyes. Concerned for Hawk's injuries, Aurora asked him to let her treat his wounds after she dropped him off at his home. While at the salon, she introduced him to the staff as her friend and invited him to participate in manicure and pedicure treatments. However, Hawk refused and opted to wait for her at the salon instead. The salon employee expressed concern that Francois might become jealous if he saw Aurora with another man and mentioned the photo of the fight that had been circulating. However, she ignored the comment, and the employee apologized for speaking out of turn. Not long after, Aurora finished her treatment and she wanted to show her appreciation to Hawk, so she gave him an ice cream. As he enjoyed the treat, Aurora playfully teased him, suggesting he was falling for her charm. But Hawk denied it. Before Aurora left, she apologized and explained that the ice cream was also an apology for Francois, who had mistreated Hawk. She promised to talk to Francois and make sure he didn't bother him again. However, Francois soon arrived wearing sunglasses and with his face covered in plaster. He tried to kiss Aurora's hand and hug her, but she refused because there were other people around. When Francois saw Hawk, he made a snide comment and warned him to stay away. But Hawk remained calm and pointed out that Francois was the one with more injuries. When he removed Francois' sunglasses, both of his eyes were black and blue. Embarrassed, Francois asked for his apology to be accepted, but Hawk refused to return his sub-district. This made him angry, and he was about to attack Hawk. When Aurora saw Francois about to hit her friend, she quickly intervened and asked him not to do it. She then turned to Hawk and asked him to return Francois' glasses, and even though Hawk didn't want to, he had to obey her request and gave the glasses back to Francois before running away. There, Aurora also wanted to stop Hawk, but unfortunately, Francois held her back and tried to charm her by saying he would always take care of her. However, he was interrupted by a call from his manager, which made him angry, and Aurora used the opportunity to leave him behind without him noticing. When Francois realized that Aurora had left, he followed her into the salon, but she managed to slip away from him and went to the parking lot. There, she called out to Hawk and asked him to stop, but he ignored her until she tripped and fell. Hawk then scolded her for being careless, but Aurora didn't want to take the blame and instead said it was because he didn't want to wait for her. Hawk then asked about Francois, and Aurora lied, saying that he received an important call and asked her to leave. Due to the pain, he finally picked her up and took her somewhere. After treating Aurora's sprained leg, Hawk began to massage it while blowing on it, which brought back memories of their time together. He explained that this was a method his mother used on him when he was little, and Aurora was touched by his kindness. She smiled and thanked him, as her leg didn't hurt as much anymore. When she got home, Aurora held her leg and talked to the shoes Hawk had given her, expressing how kind he was, but also feeling like he was bored when he was with her. She hoped that one day he wouldn't be bored anymore. The next day at the campus cafeteria, Kiryu and Hippie were singing together, and Hawk arrived with Aurora. Kiryu introduced himself as a fan of her and offered to look after her when Hawk was busy. However, when he tried to ask for her cell phone number, Hawk snatched his phone and dipped it in his drink. Kiryu told him that his phone was waterproof, so Hawk got annoyed and changed seats. Hippie then told Aurora about Francois coming to the bar and hitting Hawk for no reason, and she apologized on his behalf. Kiryu and Hippie were surprised when they heard that Aurora and Francois weren't really dating, and she explained that her agency asked him to pretend to be her boyfriend to gain popularity when she debuted as an artist, and they didn't believe she could act well. Hearing that, Hippie and Kiryu were feeling bad for Aurora. Hippie knew that Hawk had overheard their conversation, so he decided to have a little fun and teased Hawk by saying that if he were willing to kiss someone, then that person must be very special to him. Aurora just smiled and listened to the conversation. After Hippie and Kiryu left, Hawk approached Aurora and asked about her schedule. Since there was some time left, he suggested that she take a nap since he was feeling sleepy. Then, she smiled and joined him in taking a nap. One day, Aurora asked Hawk to help her pick out clothes for a press conference. The owner of the boutique they visited was very welcoming and even closed the store just for her. When the owner saw Hawk, Aurora introduced him as her friend. The owner brought out 2 of the best clothes for her, and she asked the owner to find something for Hawk as well. At first, he refused, but after she convinced him to accompany her to the press conference, he agreed to try on the clothes that had been prepared for him. When Hawk tried on his outfit, Aurora was mesmerized and complimented him. She then asked for his help in choosing her dress, and he picked out one for her. As she went to the fitting room to try it on, she struggled to zip it up and called for the boutique owner's help. But it was Hawk who came to her rescue, and as he helped her with the dress, she became nervous. He then looked at Aurora in the mirror and told her that she looked very beautiful, making her feel happy to receive such a compliment. Meanwhile, Philip was making drinks for Sylvia and she asked if he had returned to Thailand yet. He casually replied that no one knew yet since he had come straight to see her. She wondered why he hadn't met with Aurora, whom he always treated like a princess. He replied that he would see her soon. Sylvia then showed Philip a photo of Hawk, who was seen with Aurora, and told him about rumors that Aurora was with a different man every day. He already knew who Hawk was, as everyone in the Thai aviation industry knows about the Falcon family. At the press conference, Aurora and Francois promoted their new film, while Hawk watched from afar. Aaron then approached Hawk and asked for advice on how to always be there for his daughter. He also apologized for previously asking Hawk to take care of Aurora, who tried to smile despite facing difficult situations. Then, Hawk asked why Aurora became this way, and Aaron explained that it was his wife who taught her to always be happy no matter what. However, she may have misinterpreted this, causing her to pretend to be happy all the time so that others won't worry about her. As Aurora and Francois were taking photos at the press conference, an unexpected incident occurred. Suddenly, someone from the crowd hurled eggs at Aurora, leading them to immediately exit the premises. Hawk was taken aback by this outrageous act, and some onlookers expressed sympathy for Aurora, knowing she had anti-fans who disliked her. Soon after, M rushed to Aurora's side to check on her well-being and apologized for not yet having a schedule to address the dating rumors between Aurora and Francois. She was worried that such incidents might occur again if the rumors were not clarified soon. Then, Aurora smiled upon hearing this. Shortly after, Aaron arrived and greeted Aurora with joy, but her happiness was dampened upon hearing that he had to return to work later that night. She advised her father to avoid overworking himself, to which he smiled and suggested that she should also take some rest. She then inquired what her mother would have done if she were still alive at that moment. Soon after, Aaron stood up and gave Aurora a warm hug, telling her that her mother would have done the same while stroking her head and reassuring her that everything will be all right. He also reminded her that she has the power to make her own decisions, which moved her to tears, grateful for her father's wise advice. Meanwhile, Hawk, who was outside the room, overheard their conversation. After a few moments, he drove Aurora home, and during the ride, she remained silent and exhausted, eventually dozing off. He noticed and gently stroked her head, then carried her to her room. As Aurora was settling into bed, she noticed the sneakers Hawk had given her, which he had placed on the table. Feeling embarrassed for bringing him to the event and exposing him to all the negativity, she apologized and regretted her decision. Nonetheless, Aurora tried to stay positive, hoping that her film would become popular despite the unfortunate events of the day. Then, Hawk reminded her that it's okay not to smile all the time, especially if she's not genuinely happy. However, Aurora explained that smiling had become her defense mechanism, as she feared being perceived as arrogant and deserving of negativity when not smiling. Soon after, Hawk reassured Aurora that she didn't need to worry about people who try to bring her down, and that he would always be by her side. This touched Aurora, and she smiled with happiness. Before leaving, he kissed her on the forehead and urged her to rest. The day after, Aurora was busy filming a movie with Francois. However, Hawk was also present on the set, and he noticed Aurora making gestures that seemed to indicate she wanted him to be more enthusiastic. But he felt uncomfortable and decided to leave the shoot. Later on, while he was checking his phone, Hawk saw some awful comments about Aurora on social media. Even though he wanted to hide it from her, Aurora became inquisitive about what he was looking at. But he lied to her and said he was viewing pictures of airplanes. Then, she joked that he must really love planes. Trying to change the subject, Hawk asked Aurora if she had finished filming. She confirmed and then asked for his opinion on her acting skills. He replied with indifference, saying that her acting wasn't too bad. This response didn't satisfy Aurora, and she insisted that Hawk should praise her acting skills. Finally, she asked him to give her a ride home. Meanwhile, at night, Aurora found it difficult to sleep and ended up texting Hawk, and they had a long conversation until she finally said goodnight and mentioned that she would dream about him. This message made Hawk happy. The following day, when Hawk picked up Aurora to take her to campus, he seemed different because he was quiet and didn't respond to her question about whether he was okay. When they reached the cafeteria, she met up with Hippie and Kiryu, who had also heard about the news that was spreading online about her. Then, Aurora reassured them that she was fine, and Kiryu even promised to become her loyal fan. However, Aurora noticed that Hawk wasn't with them, and Kiryu and Hippie explained that it was because it was his birthday that day. Aurora was surprised and noticed a table with lots of presents, which they confirmed belonged to Hawk. When they told her where Hawk used to celebrate his birthday, she quickly left to find him, even though she didn't have a present for him yet. Soon after, Aurora arrived at a building on campus and tried to surprise Hawk while he was sleeping. But he woke up, knowing that Aurora was there. She then asked him to take her somewhere, but when he inquired where she wanted to go, Aurora just smiled and didn't give him a clear answer. Sometime later, Hawk finally accompanied Aurora to the field where planes took off. However, he was bewildered as to why she wanted to go there. But then, she led him to the front of an Aurora plane, which she had brought as a birthday present for Hawk. She even gave him a pilot's hat and asked if he was prepared to fly on that day. Without any delay, they boarded the plane and took off. At that time, Aurora was beaming with joy as she realized that she was the first passenger on Hawk's debut flight as a pilot. Soon after, he opened up about how he had not celebrated his birthday in a long time. That was because his birthday was the day his father passed away, and he always wondered what his father would have gifted him on that day. Nevertheless, he expressed his gratitude to Aurora for the delightful surprise she had given him that day. This made her smile with satisfaction. Meanwhile, at home, as she gazed at the shoes that Hawk had given her, Aurora felt content because she noticed that he was becoming kinder towards her. The next day, Hawk was spotted accompanying Aurora while she was shooting a film. When she was engrossed in discussing with the director, Francois approached Hawk and implied that he was still following Aurora around. Hawk, who disliked being bothered, told Francois that he was just Aurora's fake boyfriend. But Francois, who believed that only he could take care of her on set, arrogantly ordered Hawk to leave and insisted that he could not replace Aurora's real boyfriend if he returned. Not long after, a staff member approached him with a drink for Aurora. Upon reading the message attached to the drink, Hawk turned to see Aurora signaling for him to stay with excitement and a smile. Feeling perplexed by Francois's words, Hawk ultimately decided to leave the shooting location. As Hawk was about to leave, he overheard two people gossiping about Aurora, so he threw his shoes on the table, which startled them. Without feeling remorseful, he apologized, claiming that his shoe had slipped from his hand, and then left the two people who began to talk about him always being with Aurora wherever she went. Meanwhile, Aurora had finished filming and eventually passed by the area where she overheard the conversation. She picked up Hawk's shoes and approached him, returning them while asking why he did not wait for her inside. Then, Hawk replied that he was just bored, and Aurora assumed that he was envious of her acting alongside Francois. However, Hawk remained silent, so she clarified that it was just acting and urged him to understand and let go of his jealousy. After that, Hawk drove Aurora home amidst the heavy rain. Then, he was asked by her to wait until the rain stopped. She also requested Bernard to prepare a room and clothes for him. After a while, Hawk was already done changing his clothes and brushing his teeth when Aurora knocked on the door. Soon after, he came out, and Aurora asked him to give her a goodnight kiss before returning to her own room. As the night went on, Hawk couldn't sleep and eventually decided to leave his room. Upon seeing him, Aurora immediately followed him, and the two of them chatted on the balcony while admiring the beauty of the night sky. Hawk then observed that Aurora lived in a large house all by herself and concluded that she must be very lonely. There, she confirmed his assumption but also acknowledged that after Hawk appeared, she didn't feel lonely anymore. She praised Hawk for being kind to her, even introducing her to his friends. Afterward, Aurora asked Hawk if he didn't want to continue doing something. Then, he replied that he didn't feel obligated and told Aurora that she could confide in him if she had any complaints or sadness. He told her that he enjoyed seeing her smile and hoped that it was a genuine expression of happiness rather than an attempt to hide her sadness. At that time, she was happy to hear this and thanked him for using her name. Shortly after, Aurora shared with Hawk that her mother had given her the name Aurora after the Greek goddess of dawn, Eos, who is known for flying across the sky at dawn like an aurora. After their conversation, Hawk said goodbye to her and left as the rain had stopped. Before leaving, she asked him to read her a bedtime story. Then, he obliged and made sure that Aurora was asleep before kissing her forehead and going home. The day after Aurora woke up, she gazed at the shoes given to her by Hawk, feeling happy. Soon after, the film crew contacted her to share the shooting schedule and her scene of playing the ukulele. They inquired if she could play the instrument, to which Aurora responded positively. She then picked up the ukulele and began practicing. Meanwhile, at home, Hawk seemed to be taking it easy when his phone rang. Aurora had messaged him about the ukulele scene and wanted to show him her practice video before the shoot. In the recording, then, she played the ukulele and sang, making Hawk smile as he reminisced about their time together. On the other hand, Aurora had turned off the video and was also smiling, but tried to conceal her happiness when Bernard, who had served her since childhood, asked what had made her happy. He was aware of her love for Hawk and reminded her that love can bring both joy and pain. Then, Aurora reassured Bernard that she would be fine since she had already experienced pain. However, he cautioned her that heartbreak was different and left her speechless. When she thought of Hawk, she asked Bernard to check if he was at the bar. As Aurora had suspected, Hawk was at the bar with his friends Kiryu and Hippie. They were teasing him about his feelings for her and urging him to confess. But Hawk was confused about his emotions and couldn't understand why he always wanted to see her. Shortly after, Kiryu decided to test Hawk's feelings by asking him to approach Sylvia, a girl who seemed to be interested in him. He explained that if Hawk couldn't stop thinking about Aurora even when he was with another woman, it meant he really loved her. Curious about his feelings, Hawk followed Kiryu's advice and approached Sylvia. But when she tried to kiss him, he suddenly saw Aurora looking at him in shock, so he ran after her. At that time, Aurora felt betrayed and walked away crying until she bumped into Philip. He was surprised to see her in tears and tried to comfort her by hugging her. Hawk arrived shortly after and was heartbroken to see her in another man's arms. Afterward, Philip took Aurora home, and when they arrived, Bernard saw her crying and became very concerned. At that time, she lied and said that Philip had told her a sad story, then quickly went to her room. However, Bernard was still curious and asked Philip about what had happened to Aurora. He also inquired about how long Philip had been in Thailand. Then, Philip explained that he had returned a few days ago but had kept it a secret. He also revealed that Aurora already knew the truth about Hawk. After completing his errand, Philip went back to the bar to meet Hawk. He informed Hawk that he had been accepted at Palmer Airlines, which meant he no longer had to look after Aurora. This news surprised Hawk because he had been looking after Aurora all this time since she didn't have many friends. However, Philip explained that he was actually Aurora's guard, but he had to leave for Europe to oversee the Palmer Airlines office. Aaron then asked Hawk to take care of Aurora while Philip was away. Hawk was taken aback by this revelation and Philip reassured him that he was similar to him, so Aaron trusted him to look after Aurora. Philip also briefed him on all the things Aurora usually did so that he would know what to expect. Before leaving, Philip warned Hawk not to meet Aurora again, as he would only be a shadow of Philip. Philip then approached Sylvia, who appeared annoyed because she almost trapped Hawk, but he was not interested in her. He laughed when he heard the story and he told Hawk that he wanted to test him to stop guarding Aurora, which made Sylvia smile. 2 months had passed since Hawk, Kiryu, and Hippie were at the bar. They advised Hawk not to be sad about parting ways with Aurora, especially since he had not seen her since the incident. Hippie suggested that him try to meet Aurora, but Hawk didn't want to disturb her. Kiryu suspected that Aurora still held a special place in Hawk's heart. Shortly after, Kiryu and Hippie tried to entice Hawk by discussing Aurora's recent scandal involving another man and rumors of an affair with Francois. Hawk appeared to consider meeting Aurora but was discouraged by Hippie's insinuations. Frustrated, he chose to sleep instead. Then, Kiryu and Hippie mocked him by singing a song about his broken heart. Meanwhile, Ingrid gave Aurora and Francois a script to announce their breakup. Then, Francois used this opportunity to confess his love for Aurora. However, Aurora was not interested and rejected his proposal. Ingrid instructed them to announce their breakup on Instagram, confident that it would generate publicity for their upcoming film as people were curious about their last project as a couple. After Aurora had finished her meeting at the agency, Philip drove her home. She opened the car door herself, which was unusual because she usually asked Hawk to do it for her. Then, he commented that Aurora had changed a lot since he had left her abroad. They also discussed the announcement of her breakup with Francois, which he was relieved about because it would reduce her anti-fans. As Aurora was about to enter her house, Philip stopped her and took out a ring. He said he wanted to propose to her after she graduated from university and handed her the ring box. However, Aurora hesitated to accept the ring and said she needed time to think. Philip agreed and told her that if she wore the ring, it meant she accepted his proposal. Later that night, Aurora was thinking about what to do when M called her to warn her about the harsh comments and attention from journalists due to the news of her breakup with Francois. She also reminded Aurora to be careful when leaving the house since she had class the next day. After hanging up, Aurora looked at the ring and then saw the shoes that Hawk had given her. The following day, Philip took Aurora to campus and he was concerned about the journalists who were waiting for her. However, Aurora reassured him and asked him to drop her off at campus. She believed she could quietly pass the reporters who had already been waiting for her. Even though he was still worried, Aurora refused to skip class that day. When they arrived at the campus, Aurora tried to enter quietly, but unfortunately, one of the journalists spotted her. This led the journalist to call others to chase her. In a state of panic, she attempted to flee. Then, out of nowhere, Hawk appeared. He covered her mouth and shielded her with his body to keep her hidden from the journalists. Soon after, Hawk took Aurora to a safer place and began to scold her for repeatedly returning to the campus, despite being a hot topic among many people. At that time, she argued that she couldn't skip her class exam and tried to assure Hawk not to worry about her. She mentioned that he was already with another woman at the bar, which he tried to explain, but Aurora believed he had been lying and toying with her emotions. She also brought up the fact that Hawk never contacted her. Hawk explained that he had been accepted on Palmer Airlines, which was why he couldn't accompany her. Then, Aurora became more upset when she heard Hawk's response because she believed he had been using her without caring about her feelings. Hawk loved Aurora very much, and even though she refused, he tried to kiss her. He then explained that he had just realized how much he loved her and gently kissed her forehead. Hawk, who realized he would always be in the shadow of someone else in Aurora's life, finally let go of her hand while crying. At that time, Aurora was heartbroken to see the man she loved leave. At home, Hawk was still upset when he watched Aurora's video. Meanwhile, Philip, who took her home, noticed that she was quiet during the ride. When he asked her, Aurora said she was just tired. He then noticed that she wasn't wearing his ring and reminded her of the press conference she had to attend the next day. He promised to take care of her. Shortly after, when Aurora got home, she started playing her ukulele until Aaron came in and greeted her. At that time, she was surprised and asked when he got home. Aaron said he had just landed and wanted to see his daughter right away. They talked about the scandal that was surrounding her and it made her miss her mother. He advised her not to always force herself to smile because he knew she was tired of all the scandals that were happening. The next day, Aurora woke up feeling distressed about everything that was going on, but she still forced herself to smile. She met with M, who reminded her about the press conference later and suggested that she show sympathy to gain support from her fans. M also advised her to maintain her acting skills because that was what the agency relied on for her success in the entertainment industry. Soon after, Philip arrived and told Aurora not to worry because he would always be there for her. However, she playfully told him not to speak like a prince, which made him laugh. Philip noticed Aurora was wearing shoes that Hawk had given her, which surprised him because he had never seen her wear them before. Then, she explained that she felt comfortable wearing the shoes. After some time, the press conference finally began and the reporters bombarded Aurora with questions. Fortunately, she was able to answer all the questions properly until a journalist brought up her relationship with Philip. Aurora tried to explain that Philip was like an older brother to her who had looked after her since childhood. However, before she could finish, Philip interrupted and announced that they were going to get married soon. The journalist got excited and started speculating that Aurora might be pregnant, but she quickly denied it. Then, Aurora shocked everyone by revealing that she was going to marry someone else. The curious journalist suspected that she was going to marry Francois, but she denied that they were in love. She explained that the closeness between them that many people saw on social media was all part of the agency's plan to make her more popular. The journalist got even more excited and kept asking Aurora more questions until she got annoyed and told everyone that she would not pretend anymore. She apologized to Philip because she could not marry him. Soon after, Aurora noticed Hawk in the midst of them and tried to call out to him, but he just walked away. After that, the journalist then began to bombard her with numerous questions about Hawk, which infuriated her and caused her to shout at them to stop pestering her with inquiries. Despite her plea, the reporters persisted, causing Aurora to become increasingly hysterical and remove her shoes, preparing to throw them at the relentless crowd of journalists. Just as she was about to unleash her fury, Hawk reached out and grabbed her hand, pulling Aurora into a tight embrace. He chastised her, calling her foolish for almost losing control and resorting to violence. Without any specific destination in mind, he led her away from the chaotic scene, and when she asked where they were going, he admitted he didn't know. Sensing Aurora's need for privacy, Hawk eventually guided her to the runway, a place where he believed they wouldn't be easily found. At that moment, she was grateful for his intervention and thanked him for rescuing her from the stressful press conference. But then, Hawk was curious as to why Aurora had shouted at the reporters. Aurora replied with a smile, saying that was who she truly was and that she felt relieved after releasing all her emotions in front of the journalists. She didn't care if many people disliked her for it. She then confessed to Hawk that she was envious of his ability to express himself freely without worrying about other people's opinions. Then, Hawk encouraged her to do the same. Later, when Aurora returned to thank Hawk, he told her to thank Philip instead, which left her feeling puzzled. Meanwhile, Philip met with Aaron, who expressed his gratitude to Philip for helping Aurora be herself. Then, Philip explained that he considered Aurora to be like a younger sister and he only wanted to make her happy. When Aaron asked when Philip would return to Thailand, he simply replied that he would likely be gone for a longer time. He even spoke with Aurora's manager about her future in the entertainment industry. At the agency office, Ingrid scolded Aurora for her behavior during the previous press conference. However, he also reassured her that people would soon forget about it. Then, M confirmed this, stating that after 2 weeks of circulating news about Aurora's behavior at the press conference, the story was beginning to fade away. Although no reporters wanted to interview her, this was no longer a major concern. Fortunately, Aurora received job offers and can continue her career in the entertainment industry, which made M and her happy. Then, Ingrid mentioned that people have been talking about her impressive acting skills since the release of their latest film, and they discussed her future plans in the industry. Hearing that, Aurora thanked Ingrid and left. Shortly after, Francois arrived and teased Aurora. However, Hawk also came over and Francois became irritated. There, Hawk embraced Aurora while telling Francois that he should give up on pursuing her because she never loved him. Hearing that, Francois admitted defeat and asked Hawk to take good care of Aurora and promised to come for her if Hawk ever hurts her. There, he assured Francois that he wouldn't do that. In the final episode, Hawk invited Aurora to an airfield where she expressed her gratitude towards Philip for helping them come together and for shaping her into who she is. Hawk smiled and confirmed Aurora's words. They joked around with each other and he hugged her from behind, which surprised her. Then, Aurora turned around and they gazed at each other before Hawk kissed her. The series ends. The moral lesson of this series could be that it's always a good idea to carry spare shoes in case you accidentally step in a hole and lose them.